Okay, let's dive in. We are unpacking a really remarkable historical era today. One that was absolutely pivotal, but, maybe doesn't always get the full spotlight it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the Baghdad Golden Age of Islam.
Yes, exactly. A period generally running from, say, the 8th to the 13th century.
Right.
And Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, was just this incredibly vibrant heart of it all.
And our mission for this deep dive is really to cut through the complexity, pull out the most important sort of nuggets of knowledge from the source material you've shared.
Get to the core of it.
Yeah, think of this as your shortcut to being really well informed about this captivating time, a time marked by, well, incredible intellectual, cultural, scientific advancements.
Get fueled by this amazing fusion, really. Islamic, Persian, Greek, Indian influences all mixing.
It's often called one of the greatest eras in Islamic history, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A true high point for civilization at that time.
So let's start by setting the scene. How did Baghdad actually become this global powerhouse during that golden age, 8th to 13th century?
Well, it's interesting. Baghdad didn't even exist before the Abbasids. They built it,
Ah,
purpose-built as their capital, mid-8th century. And it grew fast, became this massive cosmopolitan city.
location must have been key.
Definitely. Our sources really emphasize its strategic spot, controlled trade routes, you see,
Right.
which brought in wealth, obviously, but also people from all over, different cultures, different ideas.
So that laid the groundwork, this mix.
It really did.
Yeah.
This influx of diverse people and resources set the stage for it becoming the major center for learning and innovation.
So it was like a magnet pulling in scholars, intellectuals, scientists.
Precisely, from everywhere, bringing their knowledge, their traditions.
It wasn't just a political capital then.
No, far from it. The rulers actively cultivated this environment where, intellectual pursuits were valued, supported. It really became a hub where the brightest minds wanted to be. Just think about it. A single place becoming the undisputed global center for ideas.
Yeah.
That was Baghdad back then.
Incredible. And right at the heart of this, the sources keep mentioning the House of Wisdom. Now, this wasn't just like a big library.
Oh, much more than that. I mean, yes, it had an immense collection of manuscripts, started by Caliph Harun al-Rashid, expanded by his successors.
Right.
But the sources describe it as, well, a dynamic intellectual institute, a place where scholars from all these different backgrounds.
Greek, Persian.
Yeah, different faiths, too. They didn't just read, they collaborated, they debated, they actually created new knowledge there.
Wow. And this collaboration, it was fueled by something called the translation movement. That sounds crucial.
It was perhaps the single most important engine of the whole era.
Really?
Yes, it was this huge, systematic, large-scale effort
Yeah.
translating ancient texts into Arabic,
Great.
primarily Greek, but also Persian, Indian, Syriac, other civilizations too. Scholars were actively funded, paid to go out, find these texts, acquire them, and translate them.
Covering everything.
Pretty much the sum total of ancient knowledge they could get their hands on: philosophy, maths, astronomy, medicine, literature.
So they weren't just collecting books on shelves. They were making this knowledge live again in Arabic.
Exactly, making it accessible across the Islamic world. And crucially, it wasn't just rote translation. They engaged deeply with these texts, debated them, critiqued them, wrote commentaries, and importantly, built upon them.
So the translation itself drove new ideas.
Absolutely. It provided this incredible foundation to work from. It didn't just preserve knowledge, it sparked innovation within Islamic civilization.
Just try to imagine that. All the world's ancient wisdom, gathered, translated, made usable.
That's the scale we're talking about. The House of Wisdom, the translation movement, they were completely pivotal in transmitting knowledge and facilitating this amazing cross-cultural intellectual exchange.
And having access to all that ancient knowledge, plus this really active intellectual environment that led to some truly groundbreaking stuff, right?
Oh, definitely.
This is where it gets really fascinating for me. The leaps in science, philosophy, medicine.
Yes, Baghdad became a real hotbed for scientific inquiry. Take astronomy. Figures like Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn al-Haytham, they weren't just repeating the ancients.
They pushed things forward.
Significantly. The sources show they developed new observational techniques, refined the understanding of how celestial bodies moved. They were building substantially on Ptolemy and others.
In medicine, too, you mentioned real revolutions there. People like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina. the sources highlight them.
They were transformative. Our sources point to things like Al-Razi's incredibly detailed clinical
Let's
observations.
sample.
Well, his work is credited as among the first to really clearly distinguish measles from smallpox, describing symptoms, treatment. That's a huge diagnostic step.
Wow, yeah.
And his huge medical encyclopedia, Al-Hawi, it compiled basically everything known from Greek, Indian, and contemporary Islamic medicine. It was monumental.
And Ibn Sina, Avicenna in the West.
Right, his canon of medicine. I mean, it wasn't just a compilation. It's systematically organized, all known medical knowledge. And our sources state it became the standard medical textbook in Europe for centuries.
Centuries.
Yes. So these weren't small steps. They were setting new standards for diagnosis, for treatment, for documenting medical knowledge.
That's incredible. Their work literally shaping medicine continents away much
Yeah.
later. What about mathematics?
Well, think about the math you use every day. A lot of roots right here.
Like algebra.
Exactly. Al-Khwarizmi, prime example. Our sources tell us his book, Al-Jabra al-Muqabala. Well, it didn't just give us the word algebra,
From Al-Jab, right.
but his systematic approach to solving linear and quadratic equations was a fundamental step towards abstract mathematical thinking.
And something else huge came from that direction too, didn't it?
The numerals. Critically, the introduction and popularization of the Hindu-Arabic numeral system, including 0,
Which we still use.
which we absolutely still use. It allowed for complex calculations that were just, well, incredibly cumbersome or impossible with Roman numerals. It's foundational to modern arithmetic.
That's a massive takeaway right there. 0 and our number system.
Yeah.
And philosophy saw similar depth.
Oh, yes. Philosophers like Al-Farabi, Avicenna, Ibn Sina again, and Averroes or Ibn Rushd, they dive deep into the newly translated Greek philosophy, especially Aristotle.
Integrating it with Islamic thought.
Precisely, exploring huge questions, metaphysics, ethics, logic. Avicenna's philosophical system was hugely influential alongside his medicine. Al-Farabi, the sources mentioned, also made big contributions to political science, even sociology. His detailed commentaries on Aristotle, they were absolutely pivotal. They were key in reintroducing Aristotle's thought to Western Europe later on.
So they were wrestling with the big questions. Existence, consciousness, knowledge.
The perennial questions, yes, and their work really resonated down the centuries.
These were clearly revolutionary advancements. They genuinely changed the course of human knowledge across so many fields. But it wasn't only about science and philosophy, was it? The cultural side, literature, art, that was booming too.
Absolutely. You can't separate them. Baghdad during this time saw this magnificent flourishing of literature, poetry, prose, history writing. It was immense.
Poetry was particularly big.
Especially revered, yes. Figures like Al-Mutanabi and Abu Nuwas are mentioned often, major poets.
What's their impact?
There are celebrated figures in these, vibrant literary circles. Our sources talk about their incredible eloquence, their wit, their emotional depth. They left a huge mark on Arabic literature. They really show the artistic sophistication of the era.
And the translation movement we talked about, did that affect literature too, bringing in stories from elsewhere?
It did, yes. Translations of literary works, epics, tales from Greek, Persian, Indian sources.
Right.
That definitely enriched the Arabic literary tradition, broadened its scope.
And alongside literature, art was thriving.
Definitely. Calligraphy, for instance, became this incredibly highly respected art form, not just writing, but true art.
Right.
And manuscript illumination, miniature painting, adding incredible beauty to books and objects.
And you see those distinctive styles, the intricate geometric patterns, the arabesques.
Exactly. They become really prominent in architecture, ceramics, textiles, everything.
One of the visual identity.
A significant part of Islamic artistic expression during this time, yes. So it wasn't just the intellectual side. Art and literature added immense beauty, complexity, depth to the era. And, their influence continues to inspire even today.
Okay, so we have this incredible period of flourishing. But, like many great eras, the Baghdad Golden Age,
Yeah.
it didn't last forever. It eventually declined.
That's right. Several factors played a part. Internal political instability was a big one.
Within the Abbasid Caliphate itself.
Yes, it was a vast empire, and over time, it started to fragment. You had semi-independent dynasties popping up, internal conflicts that weakened the central authority in Baghdad.
And then there were external pressures.
Precisely. External invasions were a key factor, and the sources really point to the devastating impact of the Mongol forces.
Ah, the Mongols. And specifically, the sack of Baghdad in 1258. That sounds final.
It was catastrophic. The sources describe it in really stark terms. The city was ravaged,
And the House of Wisdom.
destroyed. A tragic, irreplaceable loss. Countless manuscripts, texts gathered over centuries, just gone.
Unimaginable.
It wasn't just a military defeat. It was a massive blow to the entire intellectual infrastructure of that world.
The loss of knowledge.
Immense. And of course, the disruption to trade routes, the decline of Baghdad as a major center, all these things contributed to the winding down of that golden age.
So like many great eras, it faced challenges, internal and external, that eventually brought it to an end.
Yes, that's the trajectory.
And this feels like the crucial point. Despite the decline, the destruction, the legacy that endured, it's vast. You really can't understate it.
Absolutely not. The knowledge that was preserved, the advancements that were made, they didn't just vanish when Baghdad fell.
Right.
Those translations, the original works created during the Golden Age, they served as this vital bridge, connecting the classical world of Greece and Rome to later eras, other cultures.
And they really laid the foundation, didn't they, for future scientific and intellectual development.
This is where the connection to sort of the bigger sweep of history becomes so clear. Works by scholars like Avicenna, Al-Khwarizmi, Averroes, they were later translated.
Into Latin.
Into Latin, yes, during the European Renaissance. And this sparked a massive renewed interest in classical knowledge in Europe.
So the knowledge kept alive and expanded in Baghdad directly fueled the Renaissance.
This re-engagement with classical texts, which had been preserved, commented on, expanded by Islamic scholars. It's widely understood as paving a crucial path towards the European scientific revolution.
Wow, so the impact wasn't just contained to that time or place, it echoed through history, directly influencing Western intellectual development, shaping the world we live in now.
Absolutely. The intellectual achievements from Baghdad, they continue to be studied, they continue to inspire researchers, scholars, enthusiasts all over the world.
Exploring this era really gives you that critical perspective, doesn't it? On the achievements of Islamic civilization, but also just fundamentally the importance of cross-cultural exchange.
And the systematic spread of knowledge.
Yeah, and just that relentless, borderless pursuit of intellectual curiosity.
Exactly.
So just to quickly pull those threads together, the key takeaways. We saw the rise of Baghdad, this dynamic hub, the absolutely central role of the House of Wisdom and that huge translation movement. The groundbreaking contributions in science, medicine, math, philosophy, figures like Al-Khwarizmi, Ibn Sina, Averroes, so many others.
The flourishing of arts and literature alongside that.
Right, the beauty and complexity there. Then the complex factors, internal and external, leading to the decline, culminating in 1258.
And critically, that enduring significant legacy, especially its profound influence on Europe's own intellectual rebirth.
Understanding this period just reminds us how interconnected human progress really is across cultures and time.
It really does.
And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider, building on that legacy we just talked about. Think about how much of the science and philosophy that underpins our modern world.
Yeah.
You know, from the algebra you might have learned in school to basic medical concepts, even the number system you use every single day. How much of that traces its roots back, directly or indirectly, to the knowledge preserved, translated, and importantly, advanced during this remarkable era in Baghdad?
It makes you think.
What does that tell us about the interconnectedness of human progress across time, across cultures?
It certainly gives you a different perspective on where modern knowledge actually comes from, its foundations.
Definitely something to mull over. We hope this deep dive into the Baghdad Golden Age has given you some compelling insights from the source material and maybe sparked your own curiosity to explore it even further.